Welcome to the very first episode of Koin Story, the podcast where we dive deep into the evolving world of digital currency, blockchain innovation, and the new era of financial system. I'm your host, Mohd Ujaley, and in this premiere episode, we are starting strong with a conversation that sets the tone for everything this podcast aims to uncover. Our guest today is Mr. Darcy Daubaras, Chief Financial Officer of Hive Digital Technologies, a pioneering publicly traded blockchain infrastructure company. Mr. Darcy brings a rare mix of traditional finance, wisdom, and cutting-edge crypto insight, from energy strategy and mining scale to global regulation and psychology of volatility. He shares how Hive is navigating the future of digital asset and what that means for the rest of us. Whatever you are, whether you are a crypto enthusiast, a fintech professional, or someone trying to understand how Bitcoin might reshape CFO's strategy, this episode is packed with perspective you won't want to miss. So let's dive into the first chapter of Koin Story, where the future of money is being told one conversation at a time. Mr. Darcy, first of all, thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to interview you. As we understand, there is a lot of exuberance and innovation happening, especially in the blockchain space, crypto, Bitcoin, and the newer way of looking at finance. What is your general assessment as to how you look at it?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. The big thing that we're finding with the blockchain and cryptocurrency Bitcoin as an eventual alternative form of money is when you see that the government controls that a lot of these governments have over the money system and how they're able to unilaterally block people's access to their own money. There's certain countries that you can go, whether it was in Argentina years ago, where the people would wake up in the morning and found out the government's taken part of their money, or other countries. And that kind of control is what I think people want to get back to, get some more freedom and liberty over their own money supply. And I think what this gives is people a sense of financial freedom. And, with what's happened in the US and in other countries with the money printing, it's getting harder and harder for people to believe in the money system and believe in the governments. So with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, I think it's an alternative that's going to take a while to be able to build up, to be able to use as an alternative source. Right now, people are looking at it, whether it's strategy or other people, as a financial asset for price appreciation. But when you look into it, it has a huge underscore of the ecosystem and gives the support. And I've been with Hive since 2018, and Hive has been part of securing that ecosystem since that point. We started out as an Ethereum miner back in 2018, mining in Iceland and Sweden, and then expanded into Bitcoin in 2020 in Canada, and did some more in Sweden. And now we're expanding into Paraguay. So it's this financial freedom and security of the blockchain and providing people with that assurance that I think is going to be really good moving forward for the world economy.
But let me ask you, as a CFO, how soon do you see a mainline CFO might start thinking Bitcoin, crypto, and a different form of money is something that they need to manage?
I think from the management point of view, there are some CFOs that are having to do that. You've got some of the large companies that are using Koin on their balance sheet as a strategic asset. And they will buy the Bitcoin, hold it, and use it as leverage to lend against. So they can securitize it, lend, and raise money that way without having to touch it. So it's becoming a financial asset that CFOs are having to manage. And for myself, as the CFO of Hive, with the Bitcoin that we mine and try to keep on our balance sheet, we use it as a strategic asset. It is something that we need to manage. It's a long-term viewpoint that we have on it. When I started, Koin was much lower, but these kind of cryptocurrency assets is something that I think is going to become a lot more mainstream over the year. There's very few of us that have to deal with it now because there is that volatility, definitely volatility, which scares a lot of people, especially in the finance sector and in operations, of relying on that as a stable asset.
volatility creates some level of misconception in the mind of the people, and therefore there is a slow growth. What are some of the factors why this misconception is there? Is it because across different regions there are financial rules and the money is managed by those rules? So most of the government organizations who have the power to regulate, they want access at the blockchain level. Do you see if we are able to balance those kind of regulatory framework, possibly the acceptance of blockchain-based money will be slightly higher?
I think it's still a very new concept. Even if you go back 10 years and you mentioned blockchain, people would have a glazed look over their eye. So it's like when the internet started, people didn't think it was going to be big, and the adoption was very slow and steady, and it was only a very few number of people that were following it and understood it. I think that's happening with blockchain. And with the regulation, I think it's very important as a CFO to have regulation in different countries, because regulation means that the government is thinking about it. I may not like all the regulations, but at least it opens up the doors to be able to talk to them about it. There are some countries that are very advanced in pulling together the regulations. You know, the United States is doing a lot of it right now with the new administration, and getting that openness and acceptance is going to help quite a bit. So as there's more regulatory acceptance, it'll allow CFOs to try to track it a little bit better. But the volatility is still there. And I think it's because it's new, because most people don't understand it. And because the blockchain is global, the majority of them, whether it's Ethereum or Bitcoin, it moves quite quickly to world events, sort of like gold does and other of these major assets, but it moves very quickly. And that's the world that we're living in right now, where if something happens on the other side of the world, like, you know, we're in Las Vegas right now, if something happens back in India, if you go back 20, 30 years ago, North Americans wouldn't find out about that until the newspaper shows up in the morning or in the afternoon. Now it's instant. Everybody's phones is dinging and people react in terms of what does that mean? And people would trade in and out of these volatile currencies. So as more acceptance comes, you know, we will continue to see these assets grow, but you're going to see some volatility still. And the hope is that volatility will start to flatten out through global acceptance.
Since you mentioned about the ecosystem and you mentioned about the USA, as to how things are emerging. If I have to ask you, other than the US market, what are some of the market that you see have a huge potential?
What we're seeing within the ecosystem is a lot of large projects happening in the Middle East, whether it's in Dubai or the UAE. And those are long-term projects that people have been working on. It's not a quick fix because it's a very relationship-based, from what I understand. We haven't done anything in those spaces. But as those countries get more money flows into them, it helps the ecosystem, once again, for global acceptance. When you look to other countries like India or some of the ones within Africa, it's the opportunity that it provides to people. You know, we're hearing about a lot of opportunities, you know, a little bit in India, but in places like Ethiopia, Pakistan, some of these other ones, which if I go back 5 or 6 years ago, people weren't talking about. And I think it provides opportunities for local communities to tap into maybe some excess hydroelectric power or other things. And it provides hopefully jobs for those people. And the more acceptance, the better. And when it comes to global payments, you know, the place that it's happening the most is in third world countries in Africa, where a lot of these people don't have bank accounts. You know, they live, but they have a cell phone. So they've got electricity and a cell phone. So they can go hold a Bitcoin wallet. They may be able to get paid in Bitcoin and go to the local merchants. And instead of transacting with a bank, where a bank may take a large percentage as a fee, if they can even get a bank account, they're able to go down, tap their phone and make transactions. They might be micro transactions, but that's something that we see, you know, expanding throughout the world. And it's not going to be like a big bang. It's going to be small little tiny nuclear explosions. Maybe that's not the best thing, but small earthquakes around the world where they start to connect each other and people start talking. And I think that's what's going to help to get the global thing. And when these opportunities are coming.
So tell me one thing, as a CFO, what do you like to enjoy to manage? Is it the crypto money and the traditional money?
I think it's a balance. Obviously, you know, traditional money is where I've come from. Cryptocurrency that I've been in for the last 7 years is much different. And what I find for myself is it's a long-term asset for us. It's what we do, it's what we mine, it's what we produce for ourselves. And because of its volatility, I've learned to not watch it second by second. There'll be times where people come to me and ask, what's the price of Bitcoin? And to be honest, I don't know, because if you get caught on the micro moves, it's going to drive you crazy. You're always thinking about the long term. It is going to go up. We believe in the asset, but it's become it's a different mindset that you have to have. The traditional money, you can pay the fiat to your vendor. You get it. That's the way you get money in from financings. And there's very few customers that are taking, whether it's Bitcoin or stable coins or other forms of payment right now. So we from a CFO point of view, it's an evolution in terms of hanging on to it, making sure you've got it for those customers and clients that need it, but thinking long term and managing that piece of it. So whenever I can, I use the fiat currency because that's what most of the people are wanting, and hold the Bitcoin as a strategic asset.
Let me ask you a bit on the Hive. If you could share as to how the market is emerging for Hive and what is your, let's say, a plan for a couple of years down the line.
So, Hive has been around since 2017. It was the first publicly traded miner. We started out as Ethereum and now we're into Bitcoin. And about a year ago, we found a project down in Paraguay and we secured a 100 megawatt power contract. And that was revolutionary for us. It strategically changes the vision of Hive. We've always been green energy, always used hydroelectric or geothermal, and that's been our backbone. So we went from about 135 megawatts, adding the extra 100 in Paraguay, and we were offered another 200. So we're going to be moving by the end of the year to have over 430 megawatts of capacity, going from 6 exahashes to close to 25 by the end of the year. So what that's doing for Hive is it's moving us into another level of discussion. We're going to be talked about with like the riot, like the marathon. And this is our biggest strategic expansion. Is going very, very well. We've already got 100 megawatts on with over a 9.5 exahash, and that's been over the last month. And once we get that going, we're continuing to look for other opportunities. Hopefully some more expansion in Paraguay will become available and in other countries. We operate across 9 time zones in 5 different languages. So we're very open to working in other jurisdictions. We want stable jurisdictions, low cost energy, but we're not afraid to go into other ecosystems and other places, unlike some other people that are only focused on the US or only focused in Canada. So our strategic multinational team that we've got, I think is going to open up incredible opportunities for us here in the Americas and also over on the other side of the world.
You mentioned about the energy requirement basically for running the operation. That means as an organization, you will be spending a lot of money on accumulating the energy to run the operation. Second, what we have seen parallel to what you are saying in technology space, where we create the cloud infrastructure. So you may have a cloud in US, which is serving to the US market. Then you could have in Mumbai, Hyderabad, which serve the sovereignty framework as well for those countries. So do we see a smaller form of energy requirement getting generated in different markets?
Yeah, when it comes to cryptocurrency and the blockchain, where those facilities are located doesn't matter because, it's a global blockchain. Where those are located isn't important. But when you do move into high performance computing, which is one thing that Hive is doing, we've built out high performance computing. That's where those if we want to call it micro electricity data centers become very important. So you might have one in Mumbai that services the local government, the local community, because when you're talking to people in those jurisdictions, any jurisdiction, they want their data local.
Right.
They want low latency and they'd much rather work with somebody locally for speed than someone in North America. So what I see going forward is a lot of these micro ones throughout the world dealing with the AI in the high performance computing side. But from a blockchain point of view, it can be anywhere. You want to find, at least for ourselves, green energy, low cost energy, because energy is the largest expense. And so you want to make sure that you've got the lowest cost energy, because all I can do as a CFO is control my cost. I can't control the price of Bitcoin. So my job has always been control the bottom line. If I can control my costs and reduce them and be as efficient as possible with our operations team, that's the best I can do. And then the increase in the cryptocurrency and the price of Bitcoin is something I can't affect. So I guess at the end of the day, I focus on what I can control and the other things I accept.
Mr. Darcy, thank you so much for taking out time for this discussion. Thank you so much.
Very much.
Thank
you. I appreciate it.